The Economic Complexity Index, ECI, built at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government is a measure of the productive capabilities of a national economy but can be applied to cities and regions as well. The index aggregates information about the diversity and sophistication of a country's exports. Countries improve their ECI by increasing the number and complexity of the products they export. The latest data reveal a rather surprising fact. By ECI's account, Romania's economy is the 19th most complex and sophisticated in the world. That was a revelation to many, including to many economists and decision-makers in the southeastern European nation of 19 million people. The nation has been on an upward trend since 2000 when ECI initially ranked Romania 39. The rise puts Romania just behind China, 17, and France, 18, yet ahead of Mexico, 20, and Israel, 21. Regionally, Romania looks even better compared to the historical rankings of Poland, 26, Bulgaria, 39, and Ukraine, 49. Of course, a rise by some nations means a drop by others. For instance, Brazil dramatically plunged from 25 to 60. The ECI is considered a reliable estimate of a national economy's performance. It is a more nuanced instrument of the potential and structural capabilities. It is also a factor in explaining the trends of more traditional measures, such as gross domestic product, GDP, per capita. Its tracking of the Romanian economy is institutionally corroborated by a memorandum for accession to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, that was formally submitted by the Romanian Prime Minister in 2022. The OECD announced that Romania will be one of the 6 candidate countries with which it would open accession talks. Romania can look to more economic growth ahead. An average of forecasts, coming from an array of sources, including the World Bank and private investment firms, puts Romania's annual growth rate for the next 5 years at between 2.5% and 4.5%. Romania is already now the largest economy in southeastern Europe. The chief economist of one of the largest Romanian banks, Banca Transilvania, has even predicted that Romania's GDP per capita, measured for purchasing power parity, PPP, will likely catch up with the European Union average around 2030. The International Monetary Fund puts the Black Sea nation's nominal GDP in 19th place among the EU's 27 national economies, with per capita GDP PPP at 74% of the EU average in 2021. The findings are surprising and even paradoxical. The upbeat economic performance is at odds with the checkered reputation of Romanian politics, governance and institutions. Romania's international image is often associated with internal tension and impasse. The nation has a history of friction with the EU and the West over corruption and institutional dysfunction. See the recent Schengen accession spat with Austria. The political class is also seen as unstable, unreliable and untransparent. Hence the Romanian paradox: impressive economic performance despite the perception of unimpressive governance and political processes. Natural questions arise: how is this possible? What is going on? Are there errors of perception, either regarding the robustness of the economy or the flaws of politics? Are there any lessons to be learned? The relative political stability achieved recently by Romania is at odds with some events of the last 20 years. Structural crises several times reached the level of constitutional emergencies. One involved the 2012 constitutional crisis, regarded by many as a de facto coup d'état by then Prime Minister Victor Ponta and Parliament against then President Traian Băsescu. The current situation in which the two major parties, one from the left, Social Democratic Party, SDP, and one from the right, National Liberal Party, NLP, are part of a national coalition government has been the result of pressures put on Romania by the COVID-19 crisis and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So far, this coalition arrangement has proven to be a very effective and stabilizing solution. Romania seems to have navigated successfully both the turbulence of the pandemic and the regional shock of the war in Ukraine. This relatively calm situation may roll over to the next election cycle. But the 2024 general election campaign will test the coalition politically and could expose the internal frictions of the recent years of coexistence in power. Another noteworthy aspect of this moment of equilibrium, as in other cases of grand coalitions, space for the emergence of a third political force is created. Usually, such a third force takes an anti-establishment stance, challenging the status quo. In Romania's case, such attempts to be the third political force have been mounted both from the left and from the right. The attempt from the left by the Save Romania Union, SRU, which embraced a radical Western progressive agenda, seems to have exhausted itself in a series of political errors, scandals and ideological overreach. The attempt from the right by the Alliance for the Union of the Romanians, AUR, has been much more successful and resilient. Our which has embraced a Eurosceptic and pro-national sovereignty tenet, is positioned in the opinion polls as the third political force, with support of around 20%. The situation reinforces the Romanian paradox: impressive economic performance mixed with unimpressive governance and political processes. How to explain such a situation? One possible explanation is a historical accident that will dissipate sooner or later, since such a glaring contrast between governance and economic performance is not sustainable in the long run. A second explanation may involve a rethinking of Romanian politics. Romania may be an excellent illustration of the myth of democratic failure thesis, an apparently chaotic and dysfunctional democracy that delivers impressive economic results. But a possible third direction is even more interesting and intriguing. It involves making the distinction between the political state, including the typical democratic and liberal institutions, and the underlying governance structure, which combines various actors and institutions exerting their power. This analytical approach has solid and respectable roots in elite theories of democracy, public choice theory, and social conflict political sociology. It may offer insights regarding such two-tier governance architectures, which may be an emerging global trend, including in advanced industrial democracies. In Romania, the underlying and often less publicly visible structures of governance and power have functioned well enough in the last 20 years or so. The nation has shown continuity, stability, and resilience, not only mistakes and turbulence. The collective governing structure has had notable successes. It marginalized the oligarchs, who were typically such a strident and disruptive presence in other post-communist countries. It practiced politics consistent with European values. While not always in full conformity with best practices, the governance structures were effective enough not to jeopardize decent economic and political performance.